Disclaimer: the following program is designed to offend, provoke, and challenge your religious sensibilities. It contains content that will likely offend anyone who holds religion sacred. This is for those with thick skin or a taste for the harsh truth. If you're easily offended or cherish your religious views, please turn off now. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. You have been warned. Today we're looking at the moment God's covenant was handed off through fraud, bribery, and bad cooking. Genesis 27 is the chapter where Jacob lies 3 times, dresses up in goatskins, and tricks his blind father into giving him divine inheritance, while God just watches. This isn't symbolic. This isn't complicated. Although a lot of religions and believers would like you to believe it's complicated, it's not. It's just theft. The blessing that supposedly shaped the nation of Israel was stolen with a costume and a bowl of goat stew. Make of that what you will. I think everyone involved is just awful. Isaac ignores God's prophecy. Esau tries to buy a blessing with meat. Rebekah runs a fake identity scam, and Jacob impersonates his brother without a second thought. There's no faith, no prayer, just a bunch of liars trying to out-cheat each other. Like, comment, subscribe. And if this is your first time here, this is episode 71, so go check out the playlist. We've been roasting Bible verses for a while now, and it only gets worse from here. Let's get into it. Isaac is old and blind, and now he suddenly decides to have the blessing conversation, but only with Esau, the firstborn son and his obvious favorite. Not both sons, not even Rebekah, just Esau. So this is the whole divine inheritance crap, but handled more like a private backroom deal. Isaac doesn't say he's dying, just that he doesn't know when he's going to die. What he doesn't know is that he's going to live through at least 8 more chapters and finally die in Genesis 35, verse 28, at age 180. He's got over 40 years left, if we're taking this chronologically. So this entire moment is being framed as urgent, but it's not. It's personal preference disguised as spiritual urgency. And Isaac's preference for his sons is very clear. He tells Esau to grab his hunting gear and kill something. Not because this is a ritual or divine command, but because Isaac wants food. Make me something tasty, and I'll bless you. That's the condition. No prayer, no consultation with God, no public declaration, just meat. A private meal in exchange for transferring everything, his land, legacy, divine favor, all that good stuff. And here's the thing. Isaac is deliberately ignoring what God already told Rebekah back in Genesis 25, verse 23, where it said that the older would serve the younger. Jacob is the one who's supposed to receive the blessing. Isaac knows this. He's not mistaken. He's choosing to go against it, quietly, in secret, with Esau, his favorite, who already gave up his birthright and married pagan wives that Isaac and Rebekah supposedly hate from the last chapter. This isn't just favoritism on Isaac's part, it's rebellion. Isaac is trying to override God's stated plan because he likes Esau more. There's no other reason. And he's using a meal as the excuse to make it happen. Even the blessing itself is conditional. Bring me food and I will bless you. This is supposed to be the continuation of the covenant with Abraham, and Isaac turns it into a transaction based on personal appetite. And Esau goes along with it, of course. This is the same guy who already gave up his birthright for stew. Now he's trying to buy it back with another meal. Same exact dynamic. No growth in intelligence here, just more food in exchange for more power. So just to be clear, this is how Genesis is setting up the next phase of God's chosen nation through blindness, deception, bribery, and total disregard for what God already declared. Isaac isn't honoring the covenant. He's flat out trying to undermine it. Okay? First thing to notice here is that Isaac calls Esau his son. Rebekah responds by calling Jacob her son. That's not accidental. That's the line. This isn't a team effort. It's a custody war with goat stew. The inheritance isn't being passed down peacefully. It's being divided, claimed, and weaponized by each parent for their favorite. Esau goes out to hunt, completely unaware that his mother is already tearing the entire plan apart. Rebekah doesn't pray. She doesn't bring up what God said in Genesis 25. She's not quoting prophecy. She's replacing it. This isn't about trusting God's word. It's about overriding it. The covenant isn't unfolding through faith. It's being taken over in the kitchen. She doesn't barge in and try to correct Isaac or remind him who the real heir is. She hears him talking to Esau and immediately decides to go behind his back and rewrite the outcome. This is a tactical strike against her own husband. The matriarch takes control, rewrites the inheritance terms, and assigns her favorite son the role of imposter, because she knows Isaac won't see it coming, literally or otherwise. Remember that he's blind, so she tells Jacob exactly what to do: steal 2 goats. not request them, not offer them, just take them. And these animals aren't even his, they're part of Isaac's own flock. From the start, the chosen family advances through livestock theft as much as through covenant promises. Then comes the whole food scam. Isaac asks for wild game, specifically venison. She sends Jacob to bring back goats. These are different animals. I've eaten both, goat and deer, and they don't taste or smell remotely alike. The texture is wrong, the fat content is different, the odor is unmistakable, and yet we're supposed to believe Isaac, the patriarch handing out the covenant of Abraham, can't tell the difference between game and goat stew, when that's probably the majority of what they eat on a regular basis. The entire future of God's chosen people now depends on a man being too nose-blind to detect a culinary lie. There's no sacrifice here, no altar, no divine appearance by God, just a blind man about to be tricked by a plate of knockoff meat in a fur disguise. This is the foundation of Israel, and Jacob, the so-called heir, doesn't even ask if it's right. He doesn't care about the morality of the lie. His only worry, coming up next, is whether he'll get caught. That's it. No principles, no integrity, just risk management. And Rebekah already knows how to handle that. She's not just cooking the food, she's building the disguise. Those goats won't just feed Isaac, their skins are going to be worn because the blessing won't just be stolen through taste, it's going to be stolen by touch. The mother is staging the entire identity swap. This isn't some side note in the story, it's the whole plan. She's running the entire operation. She scripts the deception. She's the real force behind the outcome. And none of this gets stopped. God doesn't intervene. No angel shows up. No fire from heaven. God foretold it and then lets it happen through lies, theft, impersonation, and silence. If he's all knowing and just, this would have been the moment to correct it. Instead, the con goes through, which means divine election in this story doesn't require prayer, honesty, or even basic decency. It just needs to be faked well enough to fool a blind man. But this isn't an isolated scandal either. This sets the pattern for what follows. Joseph's brothers, Absalom, Solomon, every generation in this family will keep playing the same game. Lies, betrayal, manipulation, deceit becomes the official method of fulfilling God's plan. And this is the bloodline of God's chosen people. I'm just saying, this is what the Bible flat out says. You can read it yourself on the screen right here. All right, quick sidebar. I know I've been quiet the last few days. Between Israel, Iran, and everybody losing their minds online, it's exhausting. So just a heads up, if you're about to flood the comments with accusations of anti-Semitism because this story makes Israel look bad, take it up with the authors. I didn't write this. I'm just reading it. If portraying your own ancestors as liars, con artists, and goat-wearing deceivers was your idea of sacred history, that's on you, quoting the book you canonized. Now back to the scam. Jacob's first and only concern in this entire scheme is surface level. My brother is hairy, I'm smooth. What if my father touches me? That's it. No guilt, no ethical doubt, just logistics. Hair here is tribal ID. It's the one sensory marker that could blow the whole thing apart. Then in verse 12, Jacob calls himself a deceiver. It says, I have been in his eyes as a deceiver. It could be a hypothetical fear, saying his dad already thinks of him as a deceiver, or he could just be owning the label, because as soon as Rebekah says she'll take the blame, he's not worried anymore. So I think lying is part of how he sees himself, and his only regret is that the label might stick, ruining the payoff. Rebekah's response is brutal. On me be thy disesteem. She doesn't just enable the lie, she indemnifies him, basically saying, don't worry about it, any shame will land on her, so Jacob can glide through without a shred of fallout, and Jacob shuts up. One objection voiced, one. Once Rebekah removes that risk, he does exactly as she says. He takes the goats and brings them back. No further questions, no concern about if this is right or wrong is necessary once she agrees to take the blame. Rebekah handles the rest. She cooks the meal, goat meat again, not venison, then grabs Esau's best clothes, which she's already got on hand in the house. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment plot. It was fully premeditated. She slips Jacob into Esau's garments and straps goat skins to his hands and neck, a tactile con to fool Isaac's failing touch. By this point, the con is in full swing. Between taste, goat versus venison, touch with the goat skins, and soon voice, it's a full-spectrum sensory assault. If Isaac had working eyes or even a halfway decent nose, the whole thing would have collapsed, and Jacob says nothing more. Dressed, armed with ludicrous goat meat, and insulated from shame, he's ready to impersonate his brother for the covenant's sake. No inner turmoil, no moral wrestling, just cold, calculated deception. It's worth noting here again that there is no interference from God, no divine voice from heaven, no angelic interruptions, no altar sacrifices. It's a mother's covert operation, a son's costume drama, and a blind father about to bless the wrong man. If God allows his covenant to hinge on goat skins and stagecraft, the whole idea of divine election deserves a complete rewrite. And this is the blessing Jacob is about to receive, not through truth or faith, but through pure fraud. Jacob walks in, fully prepped to pull off the most brazen con job in the entire patriarchal soap opera. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't fumble. Isaac says, "Who are you, my son?" And Jacob fires back, "I am Esau, your firstborn." That's lie number one. It's not a slip up, it's a calculated impersonation right to Isaac's face. And he doesn't stop there. He immediately tries to close the deal, saying, "I've done what you asked. Now sit, eat, bless me." He's not just wearing Esau's clothes or faking his hands. He's owning Esau's name, Esau's labor, Esau's position. He's hijacking Esau's entire identity and pitching it like it's just good family business. Isaac, to his credit, doesn't buy it right away. He actually pauses and asks, "How did you get it so fast?" In other words, that was suspiciously quick for a wild hunt. And Jacob, like a true con artist raised in the covenant household, drops lie number two without flinching. "Jehovah thy God brought it before me." Think about this. This isn't just deception anymore. This is theological identity theft. Jacob invokes God's name to validate a lie. He doesn't say, "I got lucky." He doesn't say, "I was fast." No, he drags Yahweh into the scheme and pins the whole operation on him. God did it. Blame him. This is weaponized blasphemy. He's stealing a divine blessing while impersonating his brother, wearing dead goats, and now signing God's name on the forged paperwork. There's no bolt of lightning, no angelic interruption, no smiting, just Jacob calmly committing spiritual fraud with God's name as the fake return address. The Bible never walks this back. Not here, not later. No prophet storms in with a rebuke, no fire from heaven, no voice saying, "Thou shalt not use my name to commit grand theft destiny." Instead, this becomes the moment everything pivots on. This lie, with God's name stapled to it, is what seals the blessing. And Isaac's still not sure. He hears Jacob's voice. It doesn't match, so he tells him to come close. And once he touches the goat skin glued to Jacob's arms and neck, he lets his last working sense betray him. The voice screams fraud, but the hands feel furry, and that's apparently all it takes to reroute the entire history of Israel. This entire scene hinges on a sensory breakdown. Isaac's blind, his smell and hearing are confused, his touch is fooled by goat skins, his taste is deceived by a goat disguised as venison. It's a full sensory disaster. And Jacob knows it, so does Rebekah. He just leans in and lets the dysfunction carry him straight to the blessing. But even here, Isaac tries one last time. "Are you really my son Esau? This is it, the moment. Confess or double down." And Jacob goes for lie number three. "I am." No hesitation, no nerves, just a deadpan delivery of fraud again. The man lies three times, name, origin story, and identity, and still gets the prize. There's no angel, no fiery rebuke, just silence from God while the covenant slips into the hands of a liar. If this is what God considers worthy of blessing, maybe he should have chosen Esau, actually. At least Esau wasn't a lying, scheming con artist. This isn't a story of faith. This is a story about fraud. The entire blessing hinges not on morality or truth, but on whether your disguise holds up under low lighting and broken senses. And once again, God says nothing. No intervention, no clarification, just quiet approval by absence. This is supposed to be a sacred milestone, the passing of generational destiny. Instead, it's a farce. A blind old man gets conned by a guy in a hairy costume, and somehow people think this is God's plan. If this is what your fake God considers worthy of blessing, maybe he should have come up with a better plan. Frankly, none of this is real. I go out of my way to pretend it is when reading it, but these are just stories made up by people with low IQs and too much time on their hands. If you're still buying into this, I don't know what to tell you. Think harder. Be better. But let's continue to read this garbage, and before we even get to the food and fake fur, let's shut down the inevitable excuse. Well, God didn't intervene because he just knew it would happen, okay? But if God knew Jacob would lie, steal, and cheat his way into the blessing, why not stop it? Why say the elder will serve the younger in Genesis 25 if the only way that happens is through deception? If God's plan depends on fraud, then either he's not all-powerful or he's complicit. And if he's neither, then the prophecy wasn't prophecy. It was just a prediction that only came true because Rebekah rigged the outcome. You can't say God is omniscient, then act like he's powerless to course correct when the entire covenant is being hijacked with goat meat and fraud. And now the transaction begins. Isaac tells him, bring me the food so that my soul can bless you, because obviously nothing says divine covenant like a dinner bribe. Jacob hands it over, and Isaac eats the goat meat, thinking it's wild game. He drinks the wine, gets nice and comfortable, and the mood is officially set. This isn't spiritual discernment. It's a warm meal and a buzz. Then it gets weirder. Isaac asks for a kiss. Come near and kiss me, my son. That's the final test. Not theology, not prophecy, a kiss. Weird, but okay. And Jacob leans in, full disguise, full deception, and plants one on the man he's actively betraying. In the ancient Near East, that wasn't just a cute family gesture, it was a ritual sign of covenant loyalty. Here, it becomes Judas-level treachery. The blessing gets sealed not with love, but with the ultimate family backstab. Then Isaac smells him. The clothes, remember, are Esau's. Rebekah made sure of that. So Isaac inhales the scent, probably sweat, dirt, and a hint of goat, and suddenly that convinces him, ah yes, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field blessed by Jehovah. That's it, the nose wins. The blind man smells outdoors and concludes, yep, must be the one God favors. Forget the voice, forget logic. The entire divine legacy now hinges on who smells like fresh soil. Then comes the blessing itself, and it's unique. The dew of heaven, fatness of the earth, and corn and wine. It underscores the specific promise of prosperity God bestows on Jacob alone. But the real problem is what the blessing becomes. First, material wealth. Then, political dominion. Peoples will serve you, nations will bow. Then, a divine booby trap clause. Those who curse you are cursed, and those who bless you are blessed. It reads less like a heartfelt paternal farewell and more like an ancient royal manifesto. This isn't a prayer, it's an empire-building spell, a political power transfer, a contract where heaven becomes your enforcer. Jacob's barely out the tent flap, still wiping goat grease off his fingers, and Esau walks in with the real meal. This is the literal second after Isaac finishes the blessing. The timing is so on the nose, it might as well be scripted, because while Esau is out in the field sweating over this tasteful thing, what exactly are Jacob and Rebekah doing? They just pulled off the biggest identity heist in Torah history and, what? Went and watched from behind the curtain, stood around the campfire like, hey, who's going to tell him? There's no exit strategy, no remorse, no warning shout of, hey, Esau, wait up, Dad already ate. Just dead silence. They watch him prep the meal, watch him walk in, watch the whole scene unravel and say nothing. It's not just cowardice, it's calculated cowardice. They already got what they came for. Now they're hiding in the bushes like sneaky burglars, hoping the security camera didn't catch their faces. Esau cheerfully says, let my father arise and eat, like nothing just exploded behind the curtain. He thinks he's next in line, except plot twist, he's not in line anymore. There is no line. The last seat on the divine inheritance train left 10 seconds ago, and Jacob's riding it first class with a full stomach and a stolen name tag. Isaac hears the voice and immediately goes into shock. Who are you? He asks again. Yes, we're doing the who's on first routine for the third time in one chapter. Esau answers, I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau. And that's when the bottom drops out. Verse 33 says, Isaac trembleth, a very great trembling. That's not disappointment, that's a full-on panic attack. He realizes he's been duped, but instead of rage or even a basic bring him back here, he says, I blessed him, yea, blessed is he. That's it. Game over. The divine contract has been signed in goat grease and patriarchy breath, and there's no undo button. Because here's the problem. In the ancient Near East, a spoken blessing wasn't just a warm fuzzy, it was a legally binding decree. Isaac didn't just say something nice, he enacted covenant law. This isn't, oops, I'll try again. It's, oops, the judge already hit submit. God already got the name of the chosen one. If Isaac had blessed a bowl of lentils by accident, those lentils would be Israel's new patriarch. And Esau? His response is the only moment of genuine human emotion in this entire circus. He cried a very great and bitter cry. That's not a tantrum, that's tasak, the same Hebrew word Jeremiah uses to wail over Jerusalem. This is soul-deep agony, the kind of grief that doesn't come from getting tricked. It comes from realizing the trick worked, and the system's okay with that. The kind of grief that comes from knowing that your mother and brother betrayed you. And Isaac's big follow-up, your brother came with subtlety. That's not just a throwaway line, it's loaded. That word subtlety is the exact same Hebrew word used to describe the serpent in Genesis 3 verse 1. So let's be crystal clear, Jacob is now linguistically linked to Satan's favorite animal. The con isn't just clever, it's cursed. And God lets it ride anyway. So think about it. The man who will become Israel, the father of the 12 tribes, just locked in his status through a costume, a stew, and a lie in the God of truth. He's sitting this one out. No thunder, no smiting, just silence and bureaucratic shrugging. Because once the blessing's spoken, it's law. And that's how this twisted theology works. Legal speech equals moral truth. It's the worst parts of religious bureaucracy, a completely rigged system where the wrong person can say the right words at the right time and become blessed forever. Jacob hacks the inheritance code, and instead of consequences, he gets the kingdom. I don't know how much of a kingdom it is. We all have our own opinions, and I'll refrain from giving mine. Anyway, this is the Genesis blueprint for every tribal feud that follows. This isn't just a family drama, it's the origin story for generational hate. Esau will rage, Jacob will run. Whole nations will form around this fracture. Why? Because the blessing was treated like royalty being enthroned, not paternal warmth. You look at the structure: meal, kiss, garments, words, dominion. It's a stolen coronation ceremony, not a bedtime benediction. So no, this isn't providence. It's covenant identity theft. And if you're still trying to figure out how God picks favorites in the Bible, here's the answer: show up early, lie well, and wear more goat. So Esau's standing there, stunned, goatless, and spiritually bankrupt, and he finally just snaps. He says, is it because they named him Jacob that he's doing this? And no, that's not just a sad pun, that's a divine indictment. Jacob means heel grabber, the guy who trips you to win the race. Esau's not just calling him a thief. He's saying the name itself destined him to be screwed. His whole life has been a joke written into his brother's birth certificate. First, Jacob swindled him out of the birthright in a starvation deal so sketchy it should have been prosecuted as sibling abuse. Now he's stolen the blessing too. And yeah, the text back in Genesis 25 says Esau gave up his birthright, but this version reframes it as a total con, because that's how trauma works. It rewrites the script when you realize everyone else still got the happy ending, but you. Then comes the heartbreaking moment here. He says, have you not kept a blessing for me? This isn't just a son asking for leftovers. It's a man watching his whole identity collapse. And Isaac? He answers with a shrug and a checklist like, well, I already made Jacob your master, gave him the staff, the estate, the corn, the wine. So, yeah, I got nothing. What shall I do for you, my son? This isn't empathy from his father that supposedly considers him the favorite. Isaac is staring at his own child weeping on the floor and going, look, the God paperwork's already been notarized. I can't help you, buddy. Because the blessing isn't some warm, fuzzy family prayer. It's legal language. In the ancient Near East, once the words were spoken, boom, that was it. Irrevocable, binding, no edits, no takebacks. The idea that a blessing is a one-use magical scroll that self-destructs once read out loud, that's how Genesis frames God's favor. And Isaac treats it like he's all out of favors. Like, sorry, son, Jacob already redeemed the only voucher. God's system says no. So Esau just cracks. It's actually pretty sad if you really sit and think about it. He says, one blessing, my father, just one, and he weeps loudly, ugly. In Hebrew, like I said before, it's tzaka, excuse my Greek here, but it's the same word Jeremiah uses to scream over Jerusalem's destruction. This isn't just sadness. It's an existential scream into the abyss. Then comes Isaac's blessing, and I use that word very loosely. He basically tells him, you'll have some fat land and heavenly dew. So basically an agricultural starter pack. You'll live by the sword, so enjoy your life of tribal warfare and instability. You'll serve your brother, the very guy who just ruined you. That sounds great. And maybe, someday, if you're lucky, you'll break free from his grip in a violent coup. This isn't a blessing, it's a consolation prize stapled to a war for cat. It's like telling the loser of a rigged race, hey, maybe someday you can jump him in an alley and steal the trophy back. Even the glimmer of hope you'll break his yoke isn't redemption, it's rebellion. Esau's future won't be about growth or grace. It'll be about vengeance. That's all he gets. And again, to reiterate, God is silent here, completely silent, no correction, no intervention, because back in Genesis 25, verse 23, God already said the younger would rule the older. So this whole farce, this legal blessing theft, this emotionally shattered older son, it all unfolds like it was scripted, which I guess is what they want you to believe, that a good, loving God would script this. Again, totally stupid, which means this isn't just family drama, it's God-backed fraud. God is endorsing Jacob's lies, Isaac getting fooled, Esau weeping and destroyed, and Yahweh just hanging out watching it with popcorn. The weird thing, too, is that Isaac doesn't even seem surprised. He's disturbingly calm. No outrage, no guilt. The blessing system in Genesis isn't about character or justice. It's about timing, deceit, and word magic. Whoever speaks first wins. Whoever schemes best inherits the kingdom. And if you're late, well, enjoy your life of military exile and generational bitterness. So what's the moral? Don't trust your family. Don't be late to dinner. And if your dad's blind, old, and holding legal power from God, do not go hunting. Esau's had enough. He's not just angry, he's mourning and planning murder angry. He starts counting the days till Isaac croaks so he can commit fratricide guilt-free. That's his emotional coping mechanism. Once dad's dead, Jacob's next. And this isn't some heat-of-the-moment outburst. This is long-game bloodlust. The Hebrew literally says, Esau is comforting himself with the thought of killing Jacob. This man is marinating in revenge fantasy. He's not grieving, he's soothing his soul with the idea of stabbing his twin in the face. It's less mourning and more murder meditation. Then Rebekah, the queen of the listening tense, that's what I'm going to call her from now on. I'm joking, but seriously, what the effing hell? Anyway, somehow she hears about this internal monologue, because of course she does. You sneeze in this household, and she already has an exit plan drafted. So she calls Jacob in and goes, listen, sweetheart, your brother's coping method is premeditated murder. Time to leave. And then she hits him with the greatest false pretense in the entire Torah. Just go for a few days until your brother's fury dies down. A few days. Yeah, right. Jacob will be gone 20 years. He'll come back with 4 wives, a dozen kids, a strained back, and unresolved problems. So either Rebekah is catastrophically bad at estimating emotional cool-down periods, or she's lying. Boldly. This isn't crisis management. It's long-term exile disguised as a weekend getaway. And then comes the manipulation cherry on top. She says, why should I be bereaved of you both in one day? So she's like, if Esau kills you, I'll be sad. Don't make me sad. This isn't about Jacob's safety. It's about her grief schedule. She doesn't frame it as, I love you and don't want you to die. No, it's don't ruin my emotional balance by dying on the same day your brother snaps. And just when you think Rebekah can't get any more hypocritical, verse 46 hits like a punchline written by Satan himself. She turns to Isaac and says, I'm disgusted with life because of these Hittite women. If Jacob marries one, I might as well die. Excuse me? You just detonated the family with deceit, destroyed your older son's future, and exiled your favorite, and now your breaking point is Canaanite in-laws? But wait, it gets better, because where is she sending Jacob? To Laban's house. The same Laban whose daughters are, you guessed it, surprise, surprise, not Hebrews. They're the same foreign wives she supposedly despises. So let's just call this what it is. Racist. Hittites are awful, but my own pagan relatives, cultural goldmine. This is priceless. You can't make this crap up. And Isaac, still blind, still passive, still completely out of the loop. He doesn't say a word. Not about the stolen blessing, not about the murder threat, not about sending Jacob away. He's a ghost of a patriarch haunting the tent while Rebekah plays God with everyone's life. And let's not forget the ticking clock motif. Esau's murder plot is built on the assumption that Isaac is about to die. That's why he's waiting. The days of mourning draw near. But remember, Isaac lives for decades after this. So the entire fratricide plan, the rushed blessing heist, the panic exile, all triggered by a false sense of impending death. This family runs on fake countdowns. So let's recap this mess here. Esau is coping by planning murder. Rebekah is staging a cross-country escape with emotional blackmail and weaponized lies. Jacob is fleeing not just wrath, but the wreckage he helped create. And Isaac, still staring into the middle distance, wondering why dinner's so quiet. This chapter ends not with closure, but with exile, threats, manipulation, and racial hypocrisy. It's the Bible's version of a family sitcom, except the laugh track has been replaced by the sound of Jacob running and Esau sharpening his sword. In Genesis 27, where the blessing of God comes wrapped in betrayal, cowardice, and silence. And if you're still holding out for a moral lesson, here it is. Don't trust your mom, don't trust your twin, and never trust a prophecy that expires faster than your dad. Whew. Okay, that was a lot. Definitely one of the longer videos I've done, but when an entire nation's future gets hijacked by a goat costume and a bowl of stew, you don't exactly skip to the credits. This wasn't just family dysfunction, it was state-sponsored fraud with God's signature forged at the bottom. And this is only the beginning. The next chapters, absolute chaos, death threats, exile, bribes, magical dreams, because lying your way into a blessing is just step one. So if watching the Bible justify this level of insanity made you question reality even a little, like the video, leave a comment, and hit subscribe. You made it to episode 71, so clearly you enjoy watching ancient scripture trip over itself in public. Also hit up the Troll the Verse playlist, dozens of other biblical breakdowns, each one messier than the last. See you in the next one, where somehow this still isn't rock bottom.